What is freaking happening, NIO family? How are we doing, guys? Today I got an update on stock ticker NIO, baby, and going over top to bottom where you closed last week and what you're looking to do on the daily time frame. Are you showing signs of a potential bottoming formation on NIO stock, which I believe, right, you are, and then we'll go and do future price targets that we've talked about on this channel a while ago. But for anyone new to this channel, make sure to slap the freaking like button, hit the subscribe button, and stay until the full length of the video, right? So looking at NIO stock on the daily time frame, you can see you're in an overall RSI uptrend. And so this is interesting when you look at the overall progression of this stock over the last 118 days, right? Down 35% in a very agonizing pullback. But what you've done recently, whoops, let me just put that back, is you've recently broken out of this falling wedge structure. And what I would assume, right, off of this touch of bullish divergence on the daily time frame, in which you make a much higher low on the stock RSI, but on the price action, you're kind of just chopping around still, right? Same thing happened back here, kind of just chopping around while you had this overall downtrend, right? Look at the stock price here and an overall downtrend, but the stock RSI and an overall uptrend, guys. That is a very good sign to what's happening today, in which you're seeing this overall downtrend, but the stock remains making higher lows on the freaking daily RSI. Now, as we begin to break a lot of these downsloping resistances on the daily time frame, you should expect this to only occur more often, because the stock RSI is probably going to go up and then make a pullback, right? And if that makes a pullback, let's say again to this uptrend, and you hold that uptrend, traders, that is going to be multiple touches of bullish divergence. And as you see that, you should see this thing begin to get more volatile until eventually, guys, you see two things, right? The first thing is on the daily time frame that I'm watching for very, very closely is going to be your weekly RSI band, guys. Why is that? Right? Every single time, traders, and I want you to pay attention right now, because every single time you have crossed the RSI band, and whether or not you retested it or not is another story, but every single time you've crossed it, it has marked your freaking bottom for NIO stock. And when you see that occur, right, all this other trading is chop. It's pissing in the wind, right? I know I said that in my last AMC video, but truthfully, guys, right, you crossed it right here on the RSI band. That's that yellow band on the bottom of your screen. When this purple line crosses, oftentimes you see volatility ensue. What did you see here? 7% weak. You had a top and then a retest of that band, and then you sprung a pretty nice freaking chunk, right? We called this in our channel, but that's a 58% move. And that's just one example, right? You can go back to the July 2025 run when you crossed the RSI band and you just freaking went, right? You did not hesitate whatsoever. But those are just many, many examples of why I'm watching for the RSI band cross here, because you are inching closer and closer and closer as you see the bearish momentum slow here, right? You have a significantly strong area of support right around this 438 to 450 zone. And what you've done multiple times now is find a wick, bounce, wick, bounce, wick, bounce, wick. And the only thing I don't like here is that you're not finding the same wicks that you saw on the weekly time frame here, that you did back here, right? And that would be very indicative of a potential double bottom here to ride this thing all the way back up to our very, very important 771 target area for NIO stock, right? Because if you get up there, right, let's say this is a big fat double bottom here, it's likely you go and you test that neckline, traders, and if you break above it, retest it, that is where the volatility will really begin to pick up here. Because not only did you have a double bottom back here, right? It makes total sense that you'd have a double bottom back here. You have a double bottom right here. This one's a little bit more elongated, but the setup is there, guys. And breaking above this horizontal resistance that you see rejection from here, 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 and potentially a push through on the third test of it, guys. That pretty much solidifies this inverted head and shoulders, guys. So if you guys are new, our long-standing thesis on NIO stock is that it isn't a big fat head and shoulders, an inverted one. And the technical profit target from that, traders, I know this is moon boy stuff, but truthfully would be upwards of $20. And that's why we have this little tendies icon up here. And of course, there's going to be other horizontal resistances that you're going to meet along the way. I call them shelves in price that you should expect to see resistance, right? There's one right here at 957. There's one up here at 1636. These are all very, very sharp rejections in price. And so it makes sense that you would revisit these along the way. But what I'm watching for is the weekly RSI band crossing, right? You want to see this daily uptrend here hold, because if you break beneath it, it is fair freaking game, traders. To anyone out there listening, it is absolutely fair game that you could see a value potential on NIO at this bottom here back in 2019, this bottom here back in 2025, and then this bottom would come probably somewhere between October and November, in my opinion, right? So that is entirely on the table in terms of a risk reward asset here. So in risk, you have upwards of 15% in which you would go to meet your previous left shoulder. Right, this left shoulder acted as support. It also acted as resistance in this neckline. So you have a lot of technical confluence here in which you are revisiting your previous neckline that acted as resistance before you shot to the freaking moon, right? So revisiting that, in my eyes, is not bearish whatsoever. And I would continue to cover NIO stock because this thing, I do believe, is going to have its run. Because when you look at, we'll get into the daily time frame in a second, but when you look at NIO stock and you look at the financials, particularly your revenue year over year, right? You go to annual and you can see the story is painted in the revenue year over year. You have seen 10 million at least, or this is in the billions, right? Yeah, 10 billion in revenue generated more each and every single year. So the story remains bullish. In my eyes, the structure is significantly bullish. And now what we need to see is the follow through from NIO stock, right? You need to see the volume step into the chat, because when you go to the monthly time frame, guys, the volume on the monthly is still painting the exact same picture, right? Downtrend. And this downtrend will break soon, in my opinion. When you look at the weekly time frame, you can see pretty clearly, right? The monthly is in an overall downtrend, but the weekly is beginning to ramp up. You can see the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row of increasing volume. And although it's not what we wanted, right? It's not bullish volume. This is bearish. This is bearish freaking volume. While you close at the lows of these candles, you need the bulls to step in right now, right? Right now, because if you step in, you continue this breakout of the falling wedge, and the MACD on the weekly time frame can begin to curl up further, right? You can see the last 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks have shown bearish momentum slowing down. That's what this oscillator is. You're looking at this thing show bearish momentum slowing down. It did it very perfectly back here in this rounding bottom. You saw bearish momentum slowing. Green cross, 22.59% weak, right? So we're watching for NIO stock because you are getting pretty close to getting that green cross on the MACD. And when you get that, traders, it's very, very possible that you see this same kind of week, right? Why is my trend line doing that? That same kind of boom, boom candle. And I'm assuming it would happen outside of this trend line, right? And it would make a lot of sense to go up and test 771. 771 traders. And now not only on NIO stock do you have 771 as your critical area to close above on the weekly time frame, right? We covered it back here when you closed a penny beneath it at the height of this summer rally. But you also have the 200-day EMA currently trading at 792, which I assume would be right there with it, right, to be significant resistance, guys. So even if you see something a little bit more longer scaled like this, you go and test 771. Maybe you don't pass it, right? Maybe you continue, you chop, and then you make your beautiful move. That is the kind of structure that I'm expecting here from NIO. And I know everyone always says it's the dip before the rip, but truthfully, looking at this structure, guys, this is a bullish double bottom if you hold this uptrend, right? You need the MACD to flip green, and you need to cross the weekly RSI band, which you're close to doing, traders. So the signs are there. I do believe you're going to have a bang up freaking earnings, with the earnings coming right around the corner. And September freaking 9th, guys, it's going to be a big day for NIO stock. And that could be potentially the catalyst that breaks this thing to the upside. So if you break down, if anything in my thesis changes that could affect the long-term trajectory of our thesis for NIO stock, I will make sure to update you guys. I'll post, I'll make a video, I'll do whatever I have to do. But until that changes, traders, this thing remains significantly bullish with a very similar setup to previous runs, right? Inverted head and shoulder, inverted head and shoulder. So that's what we got for NIO stock, guys. I wanted to jump into IWM because this pertains to NIO stock, giving you an update on the broader market. Before I jump into this, though, slap the freaking subscribe button, hit the like button, because we're trying to revive the NIO stock, right? The defibs is what it needs. It needs the freaking defibs. So hit the like button. IW, I'm seeing a little bit of hesitation here at 303. In my opinion, you're going to make that full profit target of this bull flag upwards of 318, in my opinion. Where am I getting that? I'm just simply taking the flagpole, sticking it on top of the breakout here, and that brings you upwards of 318, right? So if you see this breakout continue to push with the momentum, you could simply see this thing just pull back into the 9-day EMA or this previous resistance, guys, before freaking right before seeing the boom candles enter the chat. And I would assume that low volume retest would break this volume downtrend. In my opinion, right? We'll have to see. You do have a daily gap fill currently sitting at 296.66. So if you see a more distributive look here from IWM, it is always possible fill the gap and then rip, or potentially fill the gap and then revisit the 50-day EMA, which has been the literal bounce of every single low in the last year, right? Going all the way back to May, dip, bounce into the 50-day, dip, bounce into the 50-day, dip, bounce into the 50-day. So it's been a very healthy accumulation zone for IWM until that trend breaks, right? We expect it to continue. The trend is your friend, traders. So until next time, guys, God bless each and every single one of you. Hope you're having a stand up freaking day. And as always, traders, take this away from the video. The best is yet to come. Much love and peace.